Let's try this again. I was talking and I was like, wait a minute, I don't have my earbuds in. Hi, I'm Diane. This is a channel mostly, well, it's about crafting. We'll just throw crafting out there. I live in Minnesota and today is August 1st, 2021. It is absolutely beautiful weather here in Minnesota. Not too sticky. It's supposed to be the high of 78 or something today. Last week we were supposed to get really bad heat advisory stuff, but a lot of smoke came through and cooled everything down. So most Minnesotans, we prefer this weather. I mean, if it could be this weather for like 3 months in a row, oh man, it'd be nice. But we do really need the rain. I know some of you can't give away the rain, but we do need the rain. Let's see. Since my last video, I had my birthday. My husband was going to take me out for my birthday, and it was on a Wednesday. And you're thinking, oh, go to a restaurant. The restaurants were booked, and most sit-down restaurants want you to still make a reservation, which is understandable. They can just control their staff and all that stuff. But yeah, I said, let's just get takeout. This month, we are going to be going away for a weekend, just two of us. My husband's going to a shooting event, and I'm going to sit in the hotel and I'm going to stitch. Although he's like, well, you should go to the shooting event. And I'm thinking, although he's like, well, maybe you could participate. He said, we should probably have somebody else teach you, though, because I might make you mad if I try and teach you. All joking aside, yeah, we're going to go to Wisconsin, and we might be able to go to Country Sampler. I've never been there. Spring Green. And my husband said, oh, why do we want to bring the van? You know, you're going to buy that much at a cross-stitch shop? I said, you don't understand, dear. Country Sampler is a cross-stitch quilt shop. And he's like, oh, great, I'm doomed. But it is what it is. Got flowers, roses for my mom and dad, and flowers for my middle daughter, and a cheesecake from my eldest son, and I love cheesecake. And yes, it was gluten-free. And it was just very casual, and that's fine. I'm not one that needs a parade. That's just not me. But, yeah. Other than that, a lot of the kids have had just well child or physicals, and I have one this week, and yeah, just that kind of stuff. Busy in that respect. This next weekend will be the open house for our daughter who graduated in May. And so I have to get all the food prepped. We do kind of a taco bar with shredded beef, shredded chicken, and the fixings. Plus we do bunko dip, which is sausage, rotel, and cream cheese in a slow cooker, and you just let it do its thing, and it's a huge hit every single time we serve it. So we have to do all that this week. I ordered her cakes from Costco and did all the things. So I don't know how many people will come. I hope that it's a good turnout. But we'll see. It might just be family. Which, when you have 14 children, that's not a small number. So, stitching and quilting. I've been doing a lot of quilting. I'm just in the mood. And one thing I've been stitching. Now this is a quilt I did a couple years ago, and I've shown this before. I just wanted to put it up as a background. The main quilt that I've been working on the most is this one, Log Cabin Americana. The original pattern is by Franklin Quilt Company. The fabric coloration you see here is by Shabby Fabrics. And I've been doing kind of a vlog, and I'll be posting that on my channel when I'm done with the quilt. So this is where I'm at. I have all of the blocks done. and I have the rows sewn. And technically this is supposed to go horizontal, but it was easier to show it vertically. So here's the blue, so you have star flying geese units, and then all the patriotic, and then you have the red in with the blue star. So yeah, it's coming together really nicely. My husband bought this kit for me from Shabby Fabrics for Mother's Day. And so it'll be nice to have that done and on my wall. I can't remember the size when it's done. It's more of a lap size than a bed size, but it's going to hang on the wall to look like the American flag. So I've been working on that one the most. But then I also cut another quilt. I haven't started sewing this. But it is the All Stars quilt, which is what you see behind me, by Quilt in a Day. What you may not see, this is very winter themed. This fabric here has winter words, and here, these fabrics are bluebirds. They're blue jays with red berries. So that's where I chose the blue and the white and the red. So it's kind of my winter quilt. And so I'm going to redo this quilt in these fabrics. So black, white with the gold. It's kind of my birds and my bees quilt type of idea. I didn't find, in a large scale print, looks like this, to pull it all together. I didn't find a bees quilt I like, or fabric I liked, so I'm just going to get the overall feel, and then that one can go up in spring and summer, and this one can go up in fall and winter. I just have to buy a quilt hanger thing, because this is not a bed quilt. I don't think you could see it from where you're at, but some of these fabrics have metallic pieces in it, so it's meant to hang on a wall. But so I've cut that, and then I'm getting ready to cut this quilt called Rapid City by Elizabeth Houtman, because Rapid City is where I was born and raised, and I bought this in Rapid City when I was visiting my parents. And so I think I figured out the fabrics to put in here, because there's 3 main groups to focus on, and I think I've got it figured out. So I gotta cut that. Excuse me. I also have a number of project bags cut. I just need to actually start sewing them. That's what I'm going to do after this video. I also picked up this guy. And this guy I bought in Rochester a couple years ago at a quilt shop there. It's by Rachel's of Greenfield, excuse me. And I had it all fused. Let me get my board. I was just nervous of doing the actual stitching on it. So I thought, I put an order into Buttermilk Basin, and I bought a couple of things there, a couple kits. So I need to finish this one before I start those, because the Buttermilk Basin ones haven't arrived yet. So I had this all fused, but I didn't have it sewn. So I've gone through the last couple days and sewed everything on using my machine, using a blanket stitch around the big pieces and just a straight stitch on the little. And now I need to go back and do the decorative stitching by hand. So that's what's going to take some time. Where'd it go? Because I got to put, the snowman details and the tree details. And then I am going to, I'm toying with the idea of quilting this by hand. I mean, it's not that big of a piece. I just never quilted by hand. And I have thread and needles and stuff to do it. So I think I'll put it in a Q-snap and try and quilt it by hand. So let's see, so I can get that on my wall. I like the look of wool applique a lot. All these bits here are wool, and then the background is cotton. So I love the look, but I've been too intimidated to try it. But that's what I've been working on last couple days. And then I'll pull these guys out and work on them as ornaments. Again, they're all wool. I have most of the stuff traced and fused. I just need to get my stuff in gear. So I've been doing that, quilting wise, plus I gotta get those project bags done. Stitching wise, I haven't done more on that one. This one is a new start. I started this on my birthday. It is by Cross Stitch Antiques. And I chose to stitch a 40 count Affogato by Fiber on a Whim. Now I originally bought this fabric for a different piece, but then I was looking at it and I chose to put this piece on there. Made these lines a Relic Prove by Cross Stitch Antiques. And I'm doing it in the NPIs, but I am not happy with it. This flower here, there's two peach colors. On the on the pattern, they look very pinky. You can't, there's actually two different colors here, and you could barely tell that they're there. Now I love the leaves, the greens in the leaves, and there's some blues and yellows here. Those are looking amazing, but that color and that color are not. They're very skin tone-ish pale peach. No. So I need to go and find a different silk. I'm using NPI silks. It's charted for NPIs, DMCs, Cosmo, and Averssois. I need to go find two other NPIs because there is this pink NPI here. And I thought, well, that's what the flower is. No, it's not. And I even contacted the designer and asked, you know, is this a misprint that I'm using the wrong color in the wrong spot? And she said no. On the original, they're more peachy than anything else. So I stopped working on this because I am not happy with those two colors. I got to find two different colors. And I have not had a chance to go to Stitchville. Stitchville does sell NPIs. I have not had a chance to go there. But this is the piece that I've been stitching on the most this month. It's by Moira Blackburn, and it's called Three Things. It is charted in DMC, and that's what I'm stitching it in, and I'm just stitching it on 40 count Verdal, V-E-R-D-A-L white. Verdal white is an even weave, and I will say it's nice to stitch on, but it frays and frays and frays, and a simple zigzag stitch, you know, I could dig out my serger if I really wanted to, and it would help, but it just frays. I put a zigzag on there and it just didn't work. So what I did is this is just leftover quilt binding from a quilt. This is my Marines quilt. It's flannel, it's cotton. And so I just put it around the edge, like a quilt binding. I didn't worry about mitering the corners or anything fancy there. But I just put it on one side, cut it, so it was even with the fabric, put it on another side, cut it, another side. And then the bottom is the selvage edge. So if you ever run into that with any kind of linen or even weave that it's just fraying, you can use leftover quilt binding. I have a box of leftover quilt binding. Or you could use, like at Joann's, they would have double fold bias tape. Essentially anything to protect your edge. Because I do stitch in hand, so my edges do get worn. They get a lot of wear. And even putting this into a hoop or a frame or something, that fraying would make me nervous. It really would. All that aside, this is fun to work on. And these DMC colors are just absolutely stunning together. I'm using one strand over 2 threads. And I mentioned last video when I'd shown part of this that there was an addendum sheet to the pattern that said this is the correct symbols. And I didn't understand at the time because I had this vine partially done and I had this flower done and I had part of the border done. And I didn't quite understand what was off, why they had to put that sheet in. I figured it out. These flowers here are the same shape, but on the original they're all charted in the same color, where the designer wanted them to be every other flower in a different colorway. So these are the symbols here and here that changed. Other than that, the pattern has been very easy to read and understand, but that's what the change was, why they had to add that extra part to the chart. But these, again, it's all DMC, and it is just stunning put together. So what I did is I followed Susie Reno's advice, and I took just a photocopy of the cover, and I took a marker and I kind of broke it up, that if I stitch, you're not going to see it because I wrote it in red, but if I stitched down to here this month and this much this month, I could have this done in a year. I've stitched more than that, actually. I've stitched, I think 3 months worth, 2 months worth on here. But when I was looking at it, above the house, the date, 1992, is charted. That was the year my husband and I got married. So next year is going to be our 30th wedding anniversary. And then here it says, Moira Blackburn worked this sampler. I entrust my work unto thee. That's what this line says. Well, I could put my name, Diane, and my last name. My last name is short. So there would be more space between in this area, and I could put 2022. And this could be my 30th wedding anniversary sampler. So my goal is to bring this out once a month and get a section done. So I think the next portion I'm going to tackle is this kind of rectangular area here, which actually page 1 stops about here. So I'll have page 1 completely done, or mostly done. I think it bleeds onto page 2 a little bit. Not worry about the words yet, but just worry about this kind of rectangular section all the way down to here. I think that's going to be my goal this next month, and then work my border as I go. I know some people love to do all their borders at once. I can't do that. The counting doesn't work for me, and I end up ripping it all out. So I didn't quite finish the border all the way here, but I have thread, and I'll just take this vine down until this thread runs out. But then this will be, well, I'll probably start with this section here. This kind of rectangular section. And then the next month do the words, and then the next month do this, unless I get motivated just to keep going. Sometimes you get that, like here, I should have stopped before I got to the letters, but I liked doing the letters. This alphabet was a lot of fun to do. And it was 4 different colors, or 5? 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 different colors. So essentially what I did is I did this A and the B, but then the C is the same color as the R. So if I had leftover thread from here, well, I just went down and did the R. Because I like to use up all my thread instead of put it back on the floss drop. And so then it was just kind of kitty corner the letters all the way across. And this alphabet was really fun. Some alphabets are a bear. This one was not. This one was really nice. And again, these DMC colors are just gorgeous together. Absolutely gorgeous. So yes, Moira Blackburn, she has some others of her samplers that are on my wish list now. I have a stitching friend, hopefully we can get back to stitching together once a month soon, sooner rather than later. She stitched the sampler, and she had it brought into Stitch Fell, and it was framed, and she picked it up. It is beautiful, beautiful. And then Stitchville sells Moira Blackburn, And I saw it there and I'm like, oh, that one really speaks to me. So I really love that one. I picked up land that I love, but I didn't do enough really to worry about. So this is the one I've been doing the most on. Thinking ahead to retreats next year. I don't have any stitching retreats for the rest of this year, but I want to go to StitchCon next year and maybe one other. And a lot, well, StitchCon definitely, but a lot of retreats have smalls exchange. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to do the smalls, like do one now and one next month, you know, just that kind of thing. So I picked this guy up. And by the time these retreats come around, nobody's going to remember what I stitched anyway, which is fine. It'll be a surprise. This guy, it's kind of big. It is 111 by 72. So 111 across, 72 high. It's too big. So what I did is there's a border here, and I just removed the words and put the border here. Now this width-wise is the right size for the smalls exchange. This is 28 count Wren by Picture This Plus, and here is where I'm at. So I just have to do 2 more stems in this green, and I'm going to do the sunflower buttons that it shows here. It does give you an option in the chart to stitch the sunflowers, but I want to use the buttons. I think that would be really pretty. Really, well, I wonder. Yeah, that's my plan. I don't want to change it. Because of how I know how I want to fully finish this piece, which is another reason I had to shrink it. It calls for weeks. I didn't have the called for colors, so I chose my own colors. So essentially what I did is I looked at the picture and said, okay, I need a red that looks like American flag. So I went through my overdyed cottons and I found Hollyberry, Classic Colorworks. As you can tell, there's not that many colors in here, so I'm not worried about making them all nice and neat. So Laura from the Sarah Starter and I could be sisters. I need a brown for the flag post, hickory sticks, Classic Colorworks. I need a blue for a flag, Mermaid's Fin, Classic Colorworks. I need a gold, Honeycomb, Classic Colorworks. I need a white, Magnolia Blossom, Classic Colorworks. And I need a green, Jolly Holly, Classic Colorworks. So that's what I did. I just looked at it and I said, okay, this green needs to be kind of a medium dark green. Done. Blue needs to be like a Liberty blue, bright blue. Done. So changing colors on a piece, particularly this size, is not hard. Gigantic piece, it would be challenging. So if you run into that you want to do a little piece and you don't have the colors, well, maybe look and see what you have in your stash. But I just have to do that, and then this guy will be done. And then I plan on starting this guy, Rosewood Manor Americana Flag Quilt Sampler, except each of these quilt blocks here represents a state in the U.S. I am only choosing the Minnesota block, which is this guy, and the Ohio block, which is this guy up here, right here, this guy. And I'm going to stitch those, and I know how I want to finish them on the same fabric. Not necessarily the same colors. This pattern calls for DMC, and I'm going to get as close as I can to the DMC. DMC color ranges tend to be so close that if you don't have 930, which is a kind of a steely blue, usually you can go to 931. It would be a little bit lighter. Yeah, because, like, well, let's take the 500 series. The 500 series, it's a dark green. So the 500 is a really dark green, like an emerald green. I could go to 501, which would be just a shade lighter, and no one would ever know. Ever know. So sometimes you can do that in your pieces too. I also have another one I'm working on by Arlene Cohen. It is from the Just Cross Stitch Christmas Ornament issue. I think this is 2019. Yes, it is 2019. And she calls it Silvery Lace Snowflake. Or Silver Lace? No, Silvery Lace Snowflake. I want to show the pattern here. This one. I had all the threads. And I probably have the beads. I haven't even looked, but I have a bead collection. And I went through my fabrics and I found this one from Fiberlicious. And here's where I'm at. This is 32 count. And I'm trying to remember the color. I will find the color and I'll put it below. I had the little slip of paper. I know I didn't get rid of it. No, it's not Cafe Misto. That's that other color. Anyway, I'll find the fabric color. I want to say it's November Rain, R-A-I-N, but I could be wrong. I used to be part of her Fabric of the Month club, and now I'm part of her Fiber of the Month club. I get 5 cottons. But I will put the fabric below. I try and do that. List my whips with the fabric next to them. So this is a Petite Treasure braid, PBO4, I think. And then this is white, not B5200. And then it'll have white beads. And I want to finish it similar to what you saw in the picture. And then other smalls I want to do for next year. And again, you won't remember what smalls I'm doing if you go to a retreat with me. But it'd be kind of fun if you found out. This is a Nora Corbett. These are free on the Mirabilia website. I'll link it. And I do those. And then I pulled out, well, that's going to be a new start. I'll talk about that in a minute. The Blue Flower and Lindy's Stitches had a collaboration that they released at StitchCon, the saltwater scrapbooks. And I want to stitch it all together, although I think I might put them in different order. I mean, this is an octopus. He should be down here in my mind. And the seagulls should be up there. That's just how my mind works. The patterns are stunning. And I saw the models, this one and all the littles, and they're stitched by my friend Chris Kennedy. And she is a fabulous stitcher, and she's just a fabulous woman to meet if you ever have a chance to meet her. But I went again through my stash, and this is Fiberlicious Singing in the Rain. And I want to stitch it all together, so I think that'll be beautiful. And I'm just going to pull overdyeds from my collection. That's why I buy them. And the reality is there's only 6 overdyeds used among these patterns. The rest are DMC. So if I look at the picture and think, oh yeah, you do definitely see the variegation on like the sandcastle here and in the octopus, definitely use an overdyed in those areas. So that's going to be a new start for me. Yeah, when I go to Spring Green, I will be buying some fabric for some pieces. Oh, this one, Manny Dodonna, I bought this. This was 2020 market release. Pretty sure it's 2020. It's that sewing kit. So I've never done something like this. So I'm going to use this French rose. And this is 32 count, or sorry, English rose. It's just a linen. I've never done anything like that, like made something like that, so that's going to be a challenge for me. And that's for myself. I'll go through this real quick. Sure. This is my stitching bag I'm looking in right now. Now that I have kind of a set stitchy spot, which is really nice, I can kind of throw everything in here, so it's not as organized as it could be, but it's mine. I'm good. I'm good with it. So my friend gave me this little bag, and I just throw my scissors and stuff in there. So then it just can go from project to project. I don't have to worry about it getting it lost. Haul. I have a little bit of haul, and then I'll talk WIPGO for August. Haul. I got my Fiberlicious fibers, but I also got my nest egg from Trisha from 3 Owl Threads. I get classic Colorworks 10 skeins. I already put them into my collection. I'm in the M's at this point in time. Well, starting the M's into the O's. And these are Fiberlicious's 5 skeins that I received this month, and the theme was Botanical Garden. And I am thinking she actually painted this flower and then printed it on here, because she does paint some of her fabrics. And this one is Quiet Stone. So it's very variegated greens and tans. This one is Sage. I love this one. This one is Moss. That one is just beautiful. This one is Botanical Gardens. So purples, blues, bluish greens. And then this one is called Aloe. Is it Aloe? Is it me you're looking for? So she must be a Lionel Richie fan. Various greens. And so I'm going to add those to my collection. They don't come hole punched here, so I just add that so I can put them on a ring when I store them. And then this piece is one, last year I stitched Dutch sampler. I should have pulled it. Well, let me pull it. Pause one moment. Okay. My youngest knows he's the baby, and so he thinks screaming is going to get his brother into trouble, which, yes, it does. But you know, the pecking order is alive and well in our house. I'm just trying to teach him that you don't need to scream, because if they start screaming like this, they don't get to play Xbox. There are consequences. But this one's called Dutch Sampler. It's by Sampler Cove Designs. And this was all stitched in Gloriana. There's 3 colors. There's a red, a blue, and a gold. And this was a fun piece to stitch. It's in 36 count white, or antique white. Antique white. It said 2 skeins of each, but I only used 1 skein of each color. Even the red. The red is used the most. But I haven't framed it, obviously. I do have a frame for it that I have to spray paint black. But this is not framed, but it was a beautiful piece to stitch. So I looked at what other pieces this particular designer had, and I came across a reference to this design, and I thought, oh, let me look. Well, 123 Stitch did not have it. Various other online places didn't have it. I know Stitchville did not have it. It's called The Greatest Loss by Sampler Cove Designs, and the designer's name is Diane. I'm not sure if it's Jordan or Jordan or Jordan. Jourdan. She has spent most of her adult life in the Far East, in Thailand, but I thought she also was in Suriname at one point and parts of Vietnam, if I remember her bio correctly. But this piece, it's just beautiful. It says, the loss of a father is much, the loss of a mother is more. The loss of Christ is such a loss as no other can restore. And I love the saying, but I love the colors in this. It calls for a Versoix 11 skein, well, 11 colors, I should say. I do like stitching with a Versoix, but I haven't decided how I'm going to stitch it. And she does not give you DMC alternatives, but what she says on here is you need a dark, medium, and a light purple. Well, you look at your DMC colors, find those colors, like the 550s or the 208, 209, 210, 211 right in there, and just pick 3 of them. A dark, a medium, and a light, and a dark and a medium and light blue, and a dark and medium and light gold, and a dark and a light green. So it wouldn't be hard to convert this piece either. There are a number of specialty stitches in this one, but the illustrations in here, I think there might be 12 total. I didn't count them. But the illustrations are wonderfully done. And when I say there's 12, that also includes the basic cross and the basic backstitch. And there's eyelets in here, maybe not that many, but there are eyelets, I know. There's queen stitch, half a queen stitch. Like 2 different kinds of eyelets and a Rhodes stitch I know are in here in various, there's a running back stitch and some elongated cross stitches. But again, it's all beautifully illustrated. And I love the colors in this. It's just a beautiful, beautiful piece. So I found it on a shop on Etsy called Garibaldi's Needlework, and I'll link it below. Well, no pattern can travel alone. Excuse me, just 1 second here. Again, our air is so dry because we need rain so bad. You talk for a while and you feel it, and something is pollinating. It's not a cold, it's my allergies. And I found, what else did Garibaldi offer? And I found this designer that I have never heard of before, but I should have. Jan Houtman, or Houtman. This is Flower Bouquet in green. This looks brownish, but these are most of the colors, and most of the colors are greens. And a number of the greens, you actually need more than 1 skein. Mr. Houtman, that's how I'm going to say it, and I apologize if I'm saying it totally wrong, is Dutch. He was born in the Netherlands. He lived in, I'm trying to remember what his bio said. He lived in the East for a while, East Asia for a while, and then he moved back to the Netherlands. And he was a graphic designer. He went to school in Germany for school and then for graphic design, and started his own printing business at one point in time. And then he was interested in an antique sampler and asked a friend who was an expert. And she thought that the particular sampler was overpriced. And she said, well, why don't you just stitch your own? So he did. And you could see aspects of the graphic artist in him in this particular piece. And yes, it is that big. 465 by 625. So I have to get a fat half of 40 count to stitch this guy on. But it is charted in all DMCs. And I'm going to use 1 strand over 2 threads. And when I glanced through here, all I saw were full cross stitches and maybe a little bit of back stitching, but that's it. So the model here, or he, Mr. Houtman, he always stitched on Aida, apparently. He passed away in 2007, and he always stitched on Aida. So if you're an Aida only stitcher, or that's what you're most comfortable doing, you can do this. You can, and it will look stunning, because I've seen pictures of his work. There was a museum for a while. I don't know with COVID and all of that what's going on right now, but if you look at his samplers, there's definitely a style that's his own. And there are a few others of his samplers. There's a blue and gold one, I think it's called Tree of Life, that is just beautiful, absolutely beautiful. And so I bought this one. And it tells you on the back, I'm not breaking copyright showing this, because if you pick this up in a store, flipped it over, this is what you would see. So he tells you the DMC colors here, but then over here, he tells you need this many centimeters of floss to stitch this, and 5.248 meter skeins. Now I don't know if it's 2 over 1 on Ada, or if he used one strand. This is all in Dutch, and I don't read Dutch. I could probably send a picture to Ingeborg. And Ingeborg, is it Ingeborg? My great-great-great-grandmother's name was Imborg, and she was from Norway. So I think it's Ingeborg. You all know who I'm talking about, Stitch in Time. And I've received other charts, like my thistles chart that was in Dutch, and she said you could take a picture and I can translate it for you. So this is all written in Dutch here. There's a little bit of English, but I interpret this as you're going to need 6 skeins of DMC 571 in order to finish this piece, because you'll use 5 skeins plus some. But again, I don't know if that's 1 strand over 2 threads or 2 strands. I don't know. To me, it's not clear because I don't read Dutch. But some of these, they do that for all the colors. So DMC 500, which is this really deep green, you need 8 skeins. So I need to pick up a few more skeins. But yes, when I go to Country Sampler, I plan on seeing if they have a fat half. And I'm thinking just white or antique white, maybe an ivory or platinum, but I gotta watch the ivory because there's a lot of yellow flowers in here. Because I want the stitching to show more than the fabric on this one. And when I read an article on this designer, Mr. Houtman, they talked about how his samplers, that other sampler I had, well, it made these lines of Relic Prove. There were some really big open spots, so it's not clear if they. Kathleen Littleton is the designer of Cross Stitch Antiques, and she feels that the person just didn't finish it. Here, he didn't leave a lot of open areas. This is fully covered with various motifs. There are a few alphabets. It's not 100% alphabets, but there are a few in here, down here, and up here. And some of his designs have Dutch words in them, and also some German words. And I know there's one that's Le Jardin, which is French. My understanding is, I figured out what the Dutch word for samplers is, and I'm blanking on what it is right this second, of course, because I'm talking about it. But yeah, so he passed away in 2007, and this is copyrighted 2007. So I don't know if this was his last piece he worked on or not. I don't know. But he did his own stitching. And his samplers are just beautiful. So if you've never heard of him, I encourage you to check him out. Now, this website is defunct. I wouldn't trust it. But there are some good articles in some Dutch needlework blogs, and I think one was a magazine that I found that do talk about him and his samplers, and how his samplers are so unique in his techniques and his style. So there's another designer, in case you haven't heard about him. If I could find that one blog post that really gave me a lot of good information about him, I'll post it below. But WIPGO numbers were drawn for August, and I did update my WIPGO board in that I reprinted it, marking what was finished, what was called. In some places I had, new start. Well, then I put in what that new start was. And out of the, now 15 numbers that have been called, right? 17 numbers that have been called. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I have 10 of them complete. The goal is met. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I haven't met the goal. And then again, the 2 new numbers were called. One of them is 2 parts on, well, I'll pull, where did I put that one? Is another 1,000 Stitches in Persephone. I haven't picked up Persephone since I showed her last. I've just been, we're also doing kind of a household project that's taking up a lot of time too. And again, I've been more in the mood to quilt than to stitch. This is on Antique Fields, Antique Vintage Fields. Vintage Antique Field. Okay, Lugana. I'll get it right one of these days. And this is where I'm at. So I was working on this area over here because, is it July? Yeah, last month, 1,000 stitches in Persephone. I got about 300. And then this month I need another 1,000 stitches, so I need to just pull this out and get those stitches knocked out. She is my oldest whip, and so far we have not been in an argument, so that's a good thing. It's just, it's summertime, it's hard. I find it hard to really focus on a project. I get distracted by everything, and there's always a lot going on. And then in March, this piece was called the Historic Country Sampler, Gift of Stitching magazine. And you can still get copies of the magazine if you'd want to get this, and I'll link that below. But here is just a general diagram. And in March, I was supposed to get 2 portions done. I got 1 done. And I haven't. I started working on that second portion to get that number knocked out. Well, August, I need to do 2 more sections. And I am using overdyed cottons from my stash. And 1 strand over 2 threads on is this antique white or just white? I think this is just 40 count white. Let me find the tag. I think this is just 40 count white. Place Flaggart. So England part 2 is completely done. Ireland is completely done. Holland is completely done, and I was working on Spain. There's 3 repeats here. I need 2 more repeats for 5 total, and that'll be the bottom of the design, and then I need to go that way. This section is Spain, and there are a lot of specialty stitches in this section. And I know that I've said in the past that you could probably do this pattern on Aida cloth, but to be honest, I think this Spain section would drive you up the wall. I counted the number of specialty stitches, and it was a double-digit number just for this one section. And I don't know if that's typical. I didn't read the history. Maybe it's typical of Spanish samplers that there's a lot of specialty stitches. I know some of the colors are very typical that have been chosen. And again, if the pattern calls for an orange, I chose an orange overdyed. Not necessarily what was called for. So I need to buckle down on this one and get 3 parts done now. To be honest, I'm kind of discouraged on that Spanish section. I'm not sure why. So I'm wondering if I go back up and work. The German section is huge too. So I don't know. I'll just stick it through. And that's what I need to do for WIPGO is 2 more sections on the Historic Country Sampler, 1,000 stitches on Persephone, and then my August goal will be done. But I need to finish. Those have both been called before in the WIPGO, and I need to finish that goal to get this goal done. The one piece, there's I think 2 pieces on here. I keep hoping Jessie calls, and she hasn't yet. So yeah, and I have another new start. Yeah, some of the silk gauze pieces that I have, and I'm holding on to them and holding on to them, and I'm hoping she'll call them. But again, you know, we only have September, October, November, December, so they'll get called. Will I do WIPGO again next year? Yes. Yes, I will. I'm also kind of looking forward to what do I want to do in 2022. And I am thinking have a theme that's patriotic. And I'm going to be starting this piece January 1st. And they sinned. So this is another piece of fabric. Hopefully I can find it Country Sampler. Otherwise I'll just order one from Stitchville. And then I need to get a piece of fabric for Paradise Lost by Plum Street. This one, I'm the person's piece that's hanging in Keepsakes in Cincinnati, or in Sharonville. She stitched most of it in DMC, but then she subbed out some of the overdyeds. She loved Gentle Arts. So I'm going to do something like that too. I'm going to look at the picture and think, well, you can see the variegation in this banner here. Then I'll choose a blue or whatever the color is. That's from my collection. I'll choose an overdyed for those areas. But again, if you don't see the variegation, I'll just use DMC. So it'll be done in cottons, but it's just a mixture of cottons. Barb, when I talked to her about this pattern, she said that the original stitcher, because Barb finished this piece after the original stitcher passed away and has it hanging in her shop, a coffee tea dyed, or maybe it was Linny who said it, coffee tea dyed the piece of fabric that she stitched it on. And so I might just get a white and then do that. And then I also pulled this piece because I really wanted to get more fall. Autumn is my favorite time of the year. And so I want to get more fall decorations, autumn decorations, pre-Christmas. I love Christmas too, because I love Christmas. But I want to kind of get more of the Thanksgiving, fall, harvest theme. By choice, I don't do the Halloween. That's just my choice. It just doesn't interest me. So I pulled this guy out, The First Thanksgiving by Twin Peaks, and so I need to get a piece of fabric for this. And I know that this calls for overdyeds, and I'm just going to pull from my own stash. It calls for weeks. I am just going to pull from my own stash, unless I think that there are a few colors on here looking at it, that is the color I want. Then I'll worry about getting that color. But I love the flags, the Union Jack, the Stars and Stripes. I love that the people are not cartoonish. It's just a personal thing, but I've noticed a lot of Native or Indigenous First Nation people in this type of piece tend to be a little more cartoony. I don't know why, but I love, she's beautiful. And that's one thing I love. I love the table and how beautiful that food is. I love this piece. So I need to get a piece of fabric for that. And then I also need to get a piece of fabric. Well, I kitted up this guy. This was with the Ann Morrison Stitch Along. Nicola shared another sampler with us, and so I'm going to do that one in DMC on a white. So I kitted that up. I also put this guy. So this will be another smalls thing for me for a retreat. I'm going to do the ship, and then I also want to do this Mariner's Compass, and I have an idea of how I want to fully finish them. So, and at some point I'll do the drum, but I gotta get fabric for it. So that is my plan for this next month. Work on my quilts, specifically the red, white, and blue one, to get that one done, because I just have to put the rows together. There's 6 rows, sew them together, and then there are 3 borders I need to sew on. And then I'm going to tackle this quilt, or maybe the violet quilt, to get that one done. It's the purple one I showed last time. Or this one that I have all the pieces cut now. Although there's some pieces you don't cut until you actually sew them. It just makes it so much easier in the long run. And it'll be the black and the white with the gold. So it'll mimic this one. I also want to get my daughter's quilt quilted so I can put the binding on in November. So those are my plans at this point in time. Plus all those project bags sitting there staring at me. So I will let y'all go. And when I have the project bags done, I might do something in my next video. I'm not sure when my next video will be. My August, well, my July just filled up, and now my August is doing the same thing. So we will see what happens when it happens. But I thank you for watching and hearing me babble on, and yeah, just enjoy in the States this last bit of summer here, this last month of summer. And if you're down south, you're probably looking forward to summer, coming out of your winter stage. But yeah, just enjoy your stitching, be encouraging, give people your thumbs up and encouraging words. You don't often know how far those encouraging words can go, and how they can make a person's day and week, really. But stay healthy, get vitamin D in your system, which we are chronically low up here in the north. Get a good diet going, drink your water. It'll be the best way to combat any cold, flu, anything, is getting your health in track. And I know how addictive sugar can be. I do. I'm very well aware of it because I struggle. But yeah, do what you can to keep yourself and your family healthy and happy. And I will talk to you next video. Love to y'all. Bye.